Facebook, you probably got people sharing with you little eye catchers. Like I know I get a number of them that say, "Can you see the number here? Can you see the animal here?" And, yeah, that's all simple. There's a cute one the other day though. It had a box with 3 bunny rabbits in it. And they said, "Can you see the 4th rabbit?" And it's like, there's only 3 bunny rabbits there. And then you stop and you read R-A-B-B-E-T. If you don't know how to spell, you're in trouble. You look at the box again, it's like, okay, all 4 corners are rabbited. There's your 4 rabbits in the carpenter work, not in the bunnies there. But they were intended to be immediately to throw you off in terms of what you were looking for. That's almost what I think the scriptures today do to us. You hear all the references to banquets. At first reading, especially choice wines and choice foods, and it's like, wow. And then the responsorial psalm, it talked about food again. David says, God is taking care of it. And Paul says, I've done with a lot, and I've done with little, and he's good with all that. And it's like, wow, it's all about food. And then we hear this parable. And Jesus talks about a banquet. And in talking about the banquet, this is the 3rd time now we've had his parables. And each time he is showing that the Jews have been rejected. He's calling the new people, and the new people will produce fruit. They will give him what he wants. And so, after reading all these things about banquets, as good as that sounds, and as much as that's telling us about heaven, eyes not seen nor ear heard what God has prepared for us, I would be interested, why did this one guy get kicked out? Why is he eliminated? Like, what did he really do, or what did he not do? And so you start looking at that and think, well, some commentators try to say, well, yeah, in those days, the kings, they had garments for everybody when they came in. It's like, not. All the people that were first invited were people who were wealthy, who were ready, who would have had their own garments already. So it's not about that. And so you really keep looking and you say, what is it? Is it something that he did? And I think so, if you will. Any of you ever, if you went to college, I know you got your experiences somewhere, but you ever had a party and maybe seen a number of parties, there's always somebody who seems to know how to find the parties, and they come, whether they're really invited or not, they come and they go right for the food. And they go right for the good stuff. Anybody else ever known that? No. Okay. I can almost envision that here, where the king goes and invites everybody to it, and this person doesn't have his priorities straight. And we're headed straight for the food. So you stop and think, wait a minute, what kind of banquet is it? And Jesus tells us about that. It is a wedding banquet. So that tells us a whole lot, because by the time Matthew is written, the church is already familiar with the language of wedding feast of the Lamb, the bride of the Lamb. We're familiar with the first of the miracles in John's Gospel. It's at a wedding feast. And all these wedding feasts are about who is the groom. There's no question. We look at this story about Jesus and say, who's the groom in this story? Jesus is, isn't he? His father is throwing the banquet. Jesus is the groom. You start saying, well, where's the bride? Who's the bride? And guess what? That's you and I. We are the bride of the Lamb. We are the bride of Christ. That's the total reference to us over and over. So if we're the bride of Christ as well as the guest, you can imagine, and you know how the weddings really work. They're arranged marriages. So you have a son, you have a king's son, and he's got to have a bride price. So if he's marrying another king's daughter, you say, okay, what am I going to give that king in order to get his daughter? And so we look at Jesus and say, what was his bride price? We don't have to look far, do we? His bride price is on the cross. He died so that all might have life. When I am lifted up, I will draw all people to myself. So we know that Jesus' price was his own very life. And then we look at the bride and say, well, if Jesus is the bridegroom, and the party's about him and for him eternally, and you and I are the bride, brides had to bring a dowry. They had to give something to this union as well. And we're looking at what is our dowry. So you can imagine, here's the bride coming into the chamber, and she heads straight for the banquet. It's like, wait a minute, we don't start with the banquet, do we? No, we got to start with the marriage. We got to start with saying, does she give herself to the groom? That's an essential part of a marriage. And we look at that and we say, something failed here. Somebody went for what God has to offer rather than for God himself. Going for the banquet that the Son wants to provide without going to the Son, without loving the Son. And that's where you and I are challenged, I think, today to say, are we really in love with the Lord? Are we really in desire to be with him for all eternity at this banquet? If we aren't, then guess what? God will say, okay, okay, you don't need to stay here. We got another place for you. So we think of eternal judgment. But we have to have a desire in our heart. And so what is God asking of us? Well, that we pay attention to the Son first and not to the banquet, right? And if we're paying attention to the Son, that's what we call prayer. That's what we call entering into that relationship with him. Not just keeping commandments, but being related to the Lord. And so how do we do that? Well, with prayer. And what is one prayer that I'd like to focus on today? Oh, there's a lot of prayer. We can just take personal time for prayer. This week we've been looking at the Rosary. It's the month of the Rosary. It's Our Lady of the Rosary last week. Yesterday, or Friday, the bishop celebrated the sixth Mass celebrating Our Lady of Fatima, the sixth apparition. And we look at that apparition and we think, you know what? That's the second greatest miracle that ever happened on the face of the earth that we're aware of. The first one being Jesus' own resurrection. The second is the sun dancing for 70,000 witnesses, all kinds of witnesses. I mean, something so great, so powerful, certainly is meant to get our attention. And it was meant to get our attention in context with Mary. But we look and say, what was Mary asking? At each one of these apparitions, Mary simply said, pray the Rosary. That's her message. Pray the Rosary. Lord, pray the Rosary. Pray the Rosary. And God simply is asking of us 15 minutes a day, minimally, to grow in the relationship with the Son, particularly through the Rosary. Now, what does that mean? We just got to say the Rosary like Catholics used to do? But did you say the Rosary today? Or did you ever take time to pray the Rosary? Because if we pray the Rosary, then we enter into the mysteries that are in the Rosary. If we pray the Rosary and enter those mysteries, we're simply praying the Bible. We're praying the Word of God. And the better we pray, the more we're going to want to read God's Word, so we know what he wants in our lives, study God's Word, and gives us more fodder for the next time we pray the Rosary. So we look today and say, is it too much? Is it too much for God to ask you to spend 15 minutes a day praying the Rosary? Well, okay. We can find 15 minutes, can't we? Will we? That's the hard thing sometimes, commitment. Because we all find out we get busy, we got things to do, and well, I'm going to pray when I go to bed tonight. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. It's a wonderful way to go to sleep. But it's not a wonderful way to pray the Rosary. So we need to stop today as we think of this hallmark in our history, 100th anniversary of Our Lady still crying out to us, take time, pray the Rosary, so we know the Son of God who's invited us to this eternal banquet. Take time for that. Right now. Think about your daily life. When is the best time for you to fit those 15 minutes in there? Do it. Take those 15 minutes so that by them you will grow in your own love of the bride and the groom, knowing that we are called to be his spouse at a banquet forever and ever.